Hey, you all, Carpetbagger here, coming to you live from the Arctic North. Yes, we are still in Chicago, Illinois, and we are in front of Graveface Records and Curiosities. Now, I have visited the other Graveface museum, and that is in Savannah, Georgia. It's run by Ryan Graveface, who's a musician. The museum in Savannah, based on sideshow curiosities, cults, true crime, circus artifacts, and then it also has an arcade, a vintage arcade within the museum. An amazing museum. I absolutely love visiting the Graveface Museum in Savannah, Georgia, but they have expanded. Ryan Graveface, apparently originally from the Chicago area, and has recently opened a second location here in Chicago. Actually, wish I was in Savannah right now because Savannah is much warmer, but we can take a look at the second icier location of the Graveface Museum right here in Chicago. So please follow me. See the logo there, the Graveface logo, similar to the old-fashioned gravestones that would actually have a skull on the grave marker. But yeah, let's head inside.
Middle one right there.
It's Victorian hair wreath there.
Yeah, so mourning. So essentially when like a loved one would die or something like that, you would cut their hair and then braid it into these beautiful wreaths like this. But it could take other forms as well. So like we have this landscape right here, which I love.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've seen one like that.
Yeah, people's hair. And then another unique one is that one up there, which is a portrait made out of fabric, and then they used the kind of likeness of the person that passed away.
So that they used the actual hair there on that?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
kind of neat, right?
yeah, I don't think I've seen that. Alright, so entering the mouth of Satan himself here.
Come on in.
These collection of photos actually from a sideshow family. John Williams, the alligator boy, and Madame Zola, the bearded lady. This is their family photos here when they were traveling in their own sideshow. You can see the alligator boy tent there. Yeah, and there she is. Madame Zola was a bearded lady, and John was the alligator boy. He had a scales on his skin. And there they are actually at the 1933 World's Fair in Chicago in the sideshow tent. They actually had a sideshow at the World's Fair. Here are some authentic Victorian era sideshow photos. See, people had deformities. Normally, you know, this would prevent them from living a normal life, but the sideshow in some ways actually allowed them to travel and live a more normal life because they were able to make money off of their perceived disability. We have Mark Frierson's Stranger Than Fiction Museum. Apparently, he was a maker of sideshow gaffs in the 1980s, and apparently also designed masks. You can see some of the mask ideas that he sketched out here. And heading into this room here with quite a few oddities.
So Chris Carr is one of the founding members of the Illinois chapter of the Church of Satan. So early, in fact, that his robe right there was given to him by Anton LaVey for founding the chapter.
Oh, wow.
And his collection has some cool stuff that you typically don't see, at least out and about, which is like his blood pact with Satan, right? Laminated for safety.
A laminated blood pact with Satan.
Yes.
Wow.
His Book of Shadows here. And do we know what a Book of Shadows is?
Not exactly.
So the elevator pitch for it is it's a spell book meets a journal. So think kind of where your magic at, or your magic's at where your head's at.
Yeah.
At the same time. He gets into some gnarly stuff later on. Definitely way off the Church of Satan, you know, principles.
Yeah.
Yeah, messed up. But you know, it is what it is. And then we move on to his horse mask here.
So this is a mask?
Yeah. So that's real horse taxidermied onto a bicycle helmet. And
so it's a real horse head taxidermied onto a bicycle helmet so it can be worn?
Yes, so you would pop that on top, and we know it was used ritualistically, but we don't know what ritual it was used for.
Yeah.
So come up with one. You know,
oh, wow. That is insane.
It's definitely not something you find laying around the house too often. This is Homer Tate's work, and Homer Tate, he starts off essentially running a con of selling these exotic beasts from the Far East shrunken down, when in reality, his wife's hair from the shower drain, his toenails he cut up into little pieces right there. He would use his kid's baby teeth. He would use anything. To the point where he would go to jail for grave robbing for parts. And I always like to point out, yes, he is a Florida man. And in the long tradition of legendary Florida men. As ghoulish as that may sound, his art, like after 100 years or so, has really gained this like outsider folk quality. Yeah. And at the time, these were, he was charging for them, but essentially worthless, right? But now they're worth a lot as money.
Absolutely.
And you can see some original pieces sometimes decorating like OG tiki bars around the country. So keep your eye out, if you're ever around.
Absolutely.
But I like to end this room on the Geep, which is a goat-sheep hybrid. It's the oldest piece of taxidermy, I believe, in the building. Maybe just this room. It's from the 1850s. And part of the reason we know it's Victorian, visually at least, is this shadow box presentation. And it kind of feeds back into that wreath back there. It's some of those odder Victorian kind of death rituals, but only like 100 years ago, the Industrial Revolution took us from being like folk, farm people to essentially who we are now in a shocking amount of time, and so there's a little bit of bleed over, there in the middle, and it results to this like really beautiful taxidermy like this. But I like to point out that you look at it from this angle right here before I leave you to look around.
Oh yeah, it's got 4 legs in the back. How many legs does this have?
It's 2, 4, 6. It's 8. It's 8 legs.
8-legged.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like one head, but like maybe 2 brains. I can't remember exactly. Kind of split out like this. It's a bizarre looking.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen an artifact as strange as this horse head helmet made out of a real horse used in satanic rituals. So yes, a geep, a cross between a goat and a sheep, and apparently when you mix those two things, the genetics go a little haywire, which caused this to have 8 legs. I guess it has almost full bodies of each side. I guess the convergence point is the head, so it only has 1 face, but has 2 about everything else. That is wild. Yes, always exciting to see some genuine Homer Tate artifacts. At the Graveface in Savannah, they have a massive room just completely full of Homer Tate artifacts. It's the largest collection of Homer Tate artifacts. But yeah, you can see some of his creations are more well known. So he created The Thing out in Arizona, as well as Jake the Alligator Boy out in Washington, 2 very famous sideshow gaffs. But he had these little smaller ones traveling different sideshows across the country. There's the Shrunken Head. That is the Ape Boy there. And yeah, this is a shrunken body with its own little coffin. And we have a baby goat with 6 legs there. Not as many as the geep, but still a fine number of legs for an animal. Yeah, look at that. Almost, yeah, that's all spider, like a spider goat of some sort. Now this is Buttercup, the 2-headed calf. Says it was born at a rural farm in Wisconsin. Taxidermy in the 1940s, then spent decades traveling around the world as part of a sideshow. And now it sits here at the Graveface Museum in Chicago. Looks like people leave offerings to Buttercup right there. Now this is Dumpling, the bulldog calf. You can see its legs almost so short it doesn't even look like they can reach the ground. It's very, 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 very adorable though. Some other interesting taxidermied animals up here. I don't know this dog's name, but look at that. Look at that super stylish hat he is wearing. Also a very angry monkey up here. And look at this poster here. It's Rat Boy. You can see a guy, looks like he's just shoving his mouth full of rats, just devouring rats one by one. You can see here a very odd calf. This is Patty, the calf with no limbs. A very rare disorder. It says this calf born without any arms or legs. You can see taxidermied here along with, you have the lower spine there. And then these are the pelvic bones there. But yeah, that's a really unfortunate disorder, being born with no legs. I don't think I've ever seen a legless cow before. Here we have an exhibit on the Hellfire Club. It says the Hellfire Club was like an early version of the Church of Satan. It says prominent politicians would get together and use it mostly as an excuse to party and drink and cavort with ladies. And I know I've heard that, I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but that Ben Franklin may have been a member of the Hellfire Club. And this is a Indo-Persian horned mace owned by a member of the Hellfire Club. It was apparently designed to make a loud whistling noise while it was being slung through the air. You see its mouth has a slit in it to create that strange whistling noise. Here we have a Cyclops cow. It says this was owned by Ward Hall, known by some as the king of the sideshow. Yeah, that is quite a nice Cyclops cow there. A very well developed eyeball there. You can see this case here contains Oddfellow artifacts, including these masks here that they would use in rituals. You can see this super spooky skeleton right there. That is, yeah, that looks like a real one. Think it's real.
A bit of history on how criminals have profited off their crimes for prison. So Gacy, or not Gacy, excuse me, I'm so used to talking about Gacy. Manson in this instance, he would literally, I think it was he would send $20 or something like that, and he would write 4 checks for you. And I can't remember if he chose or you chose. Maybe it was both. Maybe it could be like, you know, you choose. And in this instance, right, it's the most blasphemous, you know, Roman Polanski, Satan, Sharon Tate.
So this would be, you could pay Charles Manson while he was in prison to write these checks and send them to you?
Yes.
And so he would send, there's 2 checks to Sharon Tate, 1 to Roman Polanski, and then 1 to Satan.
Yeah. So that is essentially kind of what was happening there. Mail order prison.
Wow.
You know, obviously this is before the laws we have later now. Glad, you know, we're very glad they're here. But this is just a bit of a reminder of, you know, kind of that era.
That he could just make money just selling checks. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but yeah.
Now this is very interesting. We have a replica of John Wayne Gacy's cell here. The cot on the floor, and some of the artwork here. The museum acquired the contents of a box that was in Gacy's cell and was given to the museum by Gacy's sister, who actually kept in contact with him until the end. And of course, the chilling artwork here. For some reason, John Wayne Gacy fixated on the 7 dwarfs. He incorporated the 7 dwarfs into his paintings quite a bit. And then bloody skulls, and would often paint, you know, his clown alter ego there, Pogo the clown, which they were just telling me, I'd not heard this before. Pogo actually stood for Polish on the go, because John Wayne Gacy was Polish. And then there's the other clown here, the forgotten second clown, that would be played by other people and work with Pogo. That's Patches the clown. They actually have both costumes at Alcatraz East in Pigeon Forge. You can see Gacy there painted some horror icons, the Universal monsters there, as well as crossover work. There is John Wayne Gacy's painting of Ed Gein. They're explaining to me that the museum actually went into these documents found in this box and found some very interesting things regarding Gacy's business dealings, saying that quite possibly he was involved in a larger conspiracy to commit crimes, that he may not have acted alone. Here is the work of a detective on the Gacy case, and it shows, apparently these are the crimes right here that Gacy was convicted of, and these arrows all point to other crimes, but these were never finished. So, and they involve other people, other dealings with other businessmen, and at some point they just stopped. They just stopped looking, and apparently the Graveface Museum working on a documentary to explain this overarching conspiracy of Gacy possibly having involvement with others and not just working alone. There you have John Wayne Gacy hugging his sister on the day he was executed. In this room we have other letters and correspondence from serial killers. These letters here are from Dennis Rader, also known as BTK, one of the most horrifying serial killers of all time. Look at this here, a little picture. So it says, to the Graveface Museum from D.L. Rader. There's Dennis Rader's drawing of Fungus Man, I guess a unique character he came up with when he was not murdering people. Here's a very valuable basketball card from Mark Jackson. It is considered valuable because you can see the Menendez brothers sitting in the audience. There we have a delightful doll of the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. You can see a handwritten interview with Richard Ramirez. His first concert was the Doobie Brothers. He spends Saturday nights looking at TV and picking his nose. Favorite TV show is X-Files, Tales of the Crypt. I think he means Tales from the Crypt. And his favorite beverage is blood. Alright, heading downstairs. And look at that, we have a Flatwoods Monster lantern. That's one of the official lanterns. I just bought one of those a few weeks ago. So we head downstairs into the arcade. Looks like we've got Funhouse there. You can see the little face there that mouth opens and closes. Then Bram Stoker's Dracula and Ghost and Goblins. This is it was an old NES game that was super hard. Oh, we have Dracula here, the Bram Stoker's Dracula, and then Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the two 90s era monster remakes. Also down here in the basement there is videos for rent. You can actually rent videos here from the Graveface Museum. I've not heard of a lot of these particular movies. Oh, look at that. We got the Easter Bunny. You can see where they sell some records here, as well as some of these monster masks. Oh, that there? That is Spock. And then there we have the Phantom of the Opera. This is very interesting here. We have these movie posters in the design of old sideshow banners. There's Total Recall, The Witches, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch right there. Oh my gosh. Look at those. Look at the piranha, with the piranhas biting everyone there. Also got some taxidermy here for sale. Cute little squirrel there. And I don't know what that is there holding the piece of taffy. And that might be the most Chaos Rainsy fox I've ever seen. You can see the Graveface logo there on the light bright. The clown here says, "Quit clowning around and stalk us at Graveface Chicago." You have the Graveface tiki mug there, the skull clown. So yes, a very strange and macabre museum here at Graveface Curiosities and Records. But while we're in Chicago, I did want to go and check out another oddity shop here in the Chicago area. We've come down here to one of the most wonderful oddity shops here in the Chicago area. We have Woolly Mammoth. You can see some of the amazing stuff right here in the front window. These creepy mannequins. Got a wild boar back there. Look in here. See all sorts of wonderful, odd and strange things. Look at this old hound dog right here in the window. How much is that puppy in the window? A badger right there, and then Dixie Doo the two-headed kangaroo for, you can actually take that home with us. It's $600 for the two-headed raccoon. We have this super dapper lion here wearing the top hat. We've got Super Beaver up there with the cape. And this here, this is a cold turkey. See, he's wearing a scarf and earmuffs. I love this. This is the Dead Pals of San Filipino. This display used to be in a funeral home in Wisconsin, and now it's moved here to woolly mammoth. A little cowboy scene involving squirrels and chipmunks. Apparently this had animatronic elements at one point. Very cool collection of heads in this box. We have a wax Sir Walter Raleigh, who's actually famous for having his head chopped off. There's a real human skull encased in lucite. There is a cast of a autopsy patient, 19th century. There's a wax mold of a real skull. It's just a beautiful, beautiful young lady there. Oh, this is super cool right here. You see this real skeleton hanging there, but it's actually painted and it has the bones color-coded and labeled. We have Bubbles, the baboon there, and then Meatball, the bulldog calf. So actually, the second bulldog calf we've seen today. There's Brussels sprouts. It's a two-headed cow there. And this is Earface, this is one of the most unique freak animals I've ever seen. As you can see, Earface has ears for a face. It's a lamb born with no face, just ears. Oh, that's weird. Just looking up into the rafters here, you can see different levels of decroded moose heads there. Over here, I've got a big old giraffe. Oh, look at that face there. And then another two-headed calf there. This one's name is Rosebud. We have a Papua New Guinea skull there. I think that's like a skull covered in clay and painted. It says it helps give vitality to its living descendants. So like a little baby Rhea there, kind of an ostrich-like bird. And it says this is the scariest thing here, a chicken McNugget. You can see chicken McNuggets, you know, they do not naturally decay. This is haunted by 1,000 tortured yolks. You can see the different wax faces here. I think these might be like different deformations, facial deformations there. Apparently, if you touch this skeleton here, it says maggots will chew your eyes. Yeah, there's a creature there with a beehive for a head, and then those little bee smoke cans for hands, and then some sort of dog-boned fish head monster. There is a real shrunken head. You can see how tiny it is. Ooh, I love this. It's a little boxing match between two ground squirrels. Looks like this guy's about to take a fall. This Fiji mermaid here, made by Doug Higley, who's a famed gaff maker. I've actually spoken to Doug before, and yeah, I see he has a very distinct style of mermaid that he makes. It says that this is Lorraine. She was an Oddfellows skeleton who, I guess they would keep skeletons in their lodges, use in rituals, which is very, very, very interesting. There in our coffin, it says FLT, which stands for Friendship, Love, and Truth. Oh, this is the best here. This is a animatronic taxidermied raccoon. So he's got the Jack Daniels there and waving his glass around. Some lovingly preserved Victorian dogs here, little taxidermy dogs, glass boxes. This is a Prince Charles Terrier. A lot of cool stuff in this case. You can see a little painting of a little girl being surprised by a miniature Krampus. And then look at this squirrel gun, the legendary squirrel gun. See, they sell an enamel pin of the squirrel gun. I actually have one of those in my hat currently. You know, the insanity that is the squirrel gun. Oh look, there's Mickey. There's another one of Doug Higley's works. That's the atomic fish there. You can see in that mutant fish in the cage. Look at this, some vintage moldoramas here from the Chicagoland area. They're from the Brookfield Zoo. So that's from the Brookfield Zoo as well. This is Waffles, a Sigorian vampire deer. You can see by the horrifying vampire fangs coming out of his face. Down here you can see a very tiny deer. It's most likely stillborn or never born. You can see a little dog there with a fiddle. See the devilfish hanging there from the ceiling, other things jutting out, that wolf leaping out over this door, various skeletons hanging there. And look at this over here, this giant King Kong head and hand. So this was used at a movie theater in Wisconsin. This is cool here, a little squirrel juggling little balls. You can see the saint right there next to some clown shoes there. Sled there above our heads, holding some wildcats. I just love the different layers and levels of weirdness here. Like what's with all these trumpets? It's just, it's inexplicable. Oh, just a box of clown noses. I wonder what happened to the clowns. We have Peppy the talking possum. It's not talking currently. Maybe it could talk when it was alive? I don't know. So yes, always a delight to stop by Woolly Mammoth. I do think it's one of the best oddity shops in the whole country. So thank you for joining me here today in Chicago as we check out some of the more strange and unusual attractions. The Graveface Museum, you know, some really dark stuff there, but definitely fascinating when it comes to the world of true crime, the history of Satanism, just some very interesting things in that museum. And then Woolly Mammoth, one of the most magical oddity shops in the country. Definitely would recommend stopping at both if you're ever in the Chicago area. Moving forward, we're going to be headed tomorrow. I'm going to be leaving the Chicagoland area and be heading to St. Louis. We're getting ready for the Transworld Haunted House Convention. It's one of my favorite events of the year, where all the people in the haunted house industry come together to show off their super spooky, creepy wares. So looking forward to that. I'm not sure what direction we're going there, how we're gonna get there, what we're gonna see on the way, but I'll figure out something so you guys can come along with me to St. Louis and hopefully join me as we visit Transworld. And then after that, we got some other big plans coming up, so stay tuned for that. If you like these videos, please subscribe. It'll let you know when new videos are coming out. Of course, right now I'm trying to do videos about every day. If you'd like to help support the channel in other ways, consider donating to Patreon. $3 or more will get you a postcard once a month from me to you. Also selling those enamel pins in the Etsy shop. Speaking of enamel pins, you can see my squirrel gun pin, so representing the Woolly Mammoth oddity shop here at all times. Of course, the Carpetbagger Kawaii Fiji Merman pin now available in the pin shop, as well as other pins. You may want to, and I'm just saying, we are running low on certain stocks of pins. I'm not sure when they're going to be restocked, so you know, you may want to peek there and see if there's some that you're interested in right now while they are in stock. And you know, all that helps keep this train on the track, this L train on the track, this boat on Lake Michigan, and this two-headed calf in the air. I was trying to incorporate Chicago things. So there's a two-headed calf from either Graveface or woolly mammoth. I've gone way out here with this intro. Anyways, sorry. I'm gonna take this more seriously. This one's in the bag. Squirrel gun.